Today, we're diving into an absolutely incredible true story. It's about grit, it's about determination, and it's about this almost magical bond that was forged between 9 young men right in the middle of one of America's darkest times. Their journey, well, it ends up on the world stage, with the stakes so much higher than just a gold medal.
You know, this quote from the legendary boat builder George Pocock, it just perfectly sums up what this whole story is about. For him, rowing wasn't just a sport. It was something more, a hunt for a kind of perfection so complete he said it was like touching the divine. And you can almost feel that symphony right here, can't you? 8 people moving like they're one being, their oars just slicing through the water in perfect time on a misty Seattle morning. It's beautiful. But the real story is how this crew, this specific group of boys, found that harmony. And that's what we're here to talk about.
So, where does a story like this even begin? Well, funny enough, it doesn't start back in the 1930s. It starts decades later when the author, Daniel James Brown, met one of the key guys from the crew, Joe Rantz, right as he was nearing the end of his life. I mean, even as an old man, Joe was just a force of nature. Think about that for a second. Building a fence that long is a massive job for a whole team of young guys, let alone one man in his 70s. That one little fact tells you everything you need to know about his spirit and his incredible resilience.
So as Joe started to talk, this whole epic life story just came pouring out. It was just one thing after another. Overcoming this unbelievably tough childhood, mastering a brutal sport, and then the big one, standing right in the heart of Nazi Germany, about to compete for Olympic gold.
And this is where it gets really interesting. This is the mystery at the heart of the story. You'd think, right, that the memories of his tough childhood or that amazing Olympic victory would be the things that got to him. But they weren't.
Nope. This incredibly strong, stoic man who had been through so much, he only broke down when he tried to talk about the boat. Not a race, not a medal, not even his teammates by name, but this one idea, the boat. Clearly, it was so much more than just a piece of wood.
And this was his final instruction to the author. He was adamant. He said, this story can't just be about me. It has to be about the boat. He knew the real story belonged to something bigger than him. This shared thing, this perfect unity he just called the boat. And to really get what that means, we've got to go back, all the way back to the beginning.
Okay, so let's rewind. Picture this. It's Seattle, October 1933. We're 4 years into the Great Depression, and the mood of the entire country is just as gray and grim as those Seattle skies.
You can just feel the despair of the era in these images. On one side, you see Seattle's Hooverville, a shanty town literally built out of garbage. And then there's this headline, a brutal reminder of the crisis. This was real life for millions of people.
And the scale of it all was just staggering. 1 in 4. Let that sink in. 1 out of every 4 working Americans had no job. It wasn't just about being poor. It was this complete loss of security, of hope, for a huge chunk of the population.
And maybe the worst part, even more than the hunger, was that feeling, right? That constant, gnawing anxiety that your whole life could just fall apart at any second. This was the world these young men were trying to find their way through.
But even in the middle of all that national gloom, you had 175 young men show up at the University of Washington, all of them looking for a little glimmer of hope in a pretty unlikely place, the school's rowing team.
I mean, just look at this scene. All these guys, most of them just tall, lanky kids hanging around, hoping for a shot. For most of them, this was probably just a sport. But for our guy, Joe Rantz, it was something else entirely.
See, for Joe, making this team wasn't about fame or glory. No way. It was a lifeline. A spot on the freshman boat came with a part-time job on campus, and without that job, he couldn't stay in college, period. His entire future was literally riding on him earning a seat in that boat.
And these are the 2 men who would decide his fate. First, you've got the head coach, Al Olbrichsen. They called him the Dour Dane. The guy barely spoke, always wore a 3-piece suit, and was just intense. Then you had the freshman coach, Tom Bowles, the professor, who had the giant task of turning a bunch of farm boys and lumberjacks into elite rowers.
So you can imagine, a reporter corners the famously silent Coach Olbrichsen, trying to get his take on the new recruits. And after all that, what does he say? One word: pleasing. But here's the thing. For anyone who actually knew the coach, they knew exactly what that meant. It was like his secret code. That one single, understated word was basically a 5-star review. Olbrichsen saw something really special in this group of boys, a spark he just couldn't quite hide.
Now, at the very same time that these kids are fighting for a spot in a boat in Seattle, a totally different kind of dream is taking shape, 5,000 miles away. And the contrast is just wow. You couldn't make it up. In Seattle, the goal is personal. It's local. A coach has a quiet dream of winning a national championship, maybe putting his city on the map. And then you have Berlin. Their goal, monumental. A massive new stadium for 100,000 people, all designed to prove the cultural superiority of the new Nazi regime to the entire world.
And things were moving fast. In January of '33, Hitler takes power. By October, the very same month Joe Rantz is at tryouts, his propaganda chief, Goebbels, has convinced him to use the Olympics as a giant PR stunt. And just like that, Hitler orders a colossal new stadium to be built. The games were officially hijacked.
You can see it now, can't you? These two completely different worlds, they were on a collision course, and these boys had absolutely no idea. While they were just dreaming of a job and a spot on the team, a whole regime was planning to use them as props in its global power play.
And that right there, that brings us all the way back to the beginning. Back to the mystery of the boat. Coach Albrechtsen knew that just having strong guys wasn't enough. He was looking for something else, something way rarer. He needed the ones who could forget their own ego, forget their own glory, and pull for the other guys in the boat. That was the secret sauce. And the real question is, could they find it? And what would it mean when they carried that spirit right into the heart of Berlin?